On top of the morning, on top of the wave, on top of the team, on top of the days, on top of my purpose. I create. Y'all wanna copy, but we're not the same. Sometimes when it can be dark, sometimes when it can be scary, sometimes you still gotta push on and just do what is necessary. You need that mindset, dog. You're just like a mercenary. You just gotta go push on. You just gotta go and get it. You gotta go be so fly. People around, they're asking you why. Yeah, what is the reason you do it? Yeah, what is the reason you even try? It is cause I need me a purpose. I need a decent life. Yeah, I don't wanna be so basic. I just wanna go and fight. I really wanna give it all. I really wanna go all in. Yeah, I'm really gonna be that guy at the top that's not gonna be falling. So I'm just gonna be that leader. Man, I will be shot calling. So I'm back with a pack of my wolves, but you won't hear us hauling. On top of the morning, on top of the wave, on top of the team, on top of the days, on top of my purpose. I create. Y'all wanna copy, but we're not the same. Yeah. Life is a game and I play to the fullest. I would be a fool and I know if I wouldn't. So I just gotta go do it and do it. I just gotta keep on pushing. Man, they wanna really tell me, hey, please stop it, do not do it. But I will grab the fucking pencil, I will make it, man, I gotta pursue it. Start with the dreams, that's what they said while I'm back on my team. I did not follow that advice, man, it's not what it seems. Life is just like a dream, so I just stay pristine. Man, I come up crystal clear, man, I just will. Yeah,
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake. Got a whole lot of news for you today. Breaking, just before we went up, special counsel being assigned to the Biden documents case. Why that is, in my opinion, political theater, and it's really not something to worry about, because even if it goes very badly for Biden, that means the canary in that particular coal mine is one we would like to see be arrested. Because it's Trump. Then, hate groups in America. I thought you ought to have a look at the map of hate groups around America, the actual literal map, because it's very informative. Being what you can do, we also have talking to the disinformed, the misinformed, and the malinformed, and what is the difference? A fascinating look at disinformation in 2023. Adam Schiff is angry about Katie Porter. Good. Usually anything that makes Adam Schiff angry makes me happy, and this is one such thing. Katie Porter recently announced her bid for Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat. GOP outlawing fantasy behavior, as in they have made a rule against something that does not exist. Makes sense for them. And projection politics, basically the Republican playbook. Whole lot of stuff to get to today, so let's start with that breaking news. Joe Biden took classified documents with him, whether it was intentional or not, when he was leaving the Oval Office, when he was leaving his job as vice president. And it appears that now a special counsel has been assigned to the case. Let's have a listen to the fearless, said with dripping sarcasm, Merrick Garland announcing this.
Earlier today, I signed an order appointing Robert Hur as special counsel for the matter I've just described. The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter. The special counsel will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of any official of the department, but he must comply with the regulations, procedures, and policies of the department. Mr. Hur has a long and distinguished career as a prosecutor. In 2003, he joined the department's criminal division, where he worked on counterterrorism, corporate fraud, and appellate matters. From 2007 until 2014, Mr. Hur served as an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Maryland, where he prosecuted matters ranging from violent crime to financial fraud. In 2017, Mr. Hur rejoined the department as the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General. In 2018, he was nominated and confirmed to serve as a U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland. As U.S. Attorney, he supervised some of the department's more important national security, public corruption, and other high-profile matters. I will ensure that Mr. Hur receives all the resources he needs to conduct his work. As I have said before, I strongly believe that the normal processes of this department can handle all investigations with integrity. But under the regulations, the extraordinary circumstances here require the appointment of a special counsel for this matter. This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law. I am confident that Mr. Hur will carry out his responsibility in an even-handed and urgent manner and in accordance with the highest traditions of this department.
All right. So, what have we learned here? Let's transfer to the nice big screen so you can see more of my constantly under assault from my own machinations mug. So Merrick Garland has assigned a special counsel to investigate the Biden documents case. Let's recap what actually happened with the Biden documents case and compare it to the Trump documents case. Starting with Biden. It was discovered that it was discovered just now, within the last couple of weeks, that on November 30th, I believe, Biden's team found some classified documents in his old office. They immediately notified the National Archives. They reached out to the National Archives, returned the documents, and then more were discovered. Exact same process happened. National Archives notified again. Documents returned. Compare that to Trump. We would not even know those documents had been missing except that Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence got raided. Got raided so that America could get those documents back that Trump took. Trump did not reach out to the National Archives. They reached out to him. Trump did not give them back immediately. In fact, he resisted giving them back. Then he told them he had given them all back, and then we discovered he had not. Compare those two behaviors. Biden's case here, let me be clear, it's not good. It's not good that America cannot effing hold on to its national secrets. But we have not even scratched the surface of the disparity between these two. If you're thinking, well, Jesus, it already sounds like Biden's is not that bad. Also, bear in mind, we don't know what level of documents Biden had. The absolute worst he could have had would be SCI documents. Those are documents that are secure compartmented information. They cannot leave a facility under the current guidelines called a Schiff. That's a secure compartmentalized information facility. If we were to discover that Biden had taken, accidentally or otherwise, SCI documents, that would be super bad, if only for how irresponsible it is. Let me tell you, though, we know Trump had SCI documents. So when you hear classified documents, understand that that is a category of documents. There are very different levels of them. Based on the context here, now I would be speculating to say Biden did not have SCI documents. I don't know. None of us do. We don't know anything beyond the fact that they were classified. And more importantly, Biden's team reached out to the National Archives. That tells you a bit about the intent here. So why a special counsel? My thinking is that Merrick Garland, particularly being the coward that he is, and being the politician that he is, frankly, is eager to to make a show of treating Trump and Biden the same. Which ironically, for Garland, means not treating them the same. I can't say that at any time I want to be against a politician being held accountable, whether they are in office or not. So I'm not against a special counsel investigating Biden. But at the same time, I'm not expecting anything to come of it. Whereas I am not only expecting Jack Smith to bring up charges against Trump, and by the way, it's looking more and more like that's going to become a reality. But I don't expect anything from Biden. Further, if Biden were to receive even a slap on the wrist for this, even a formal letter of from the Justice Department, but Trump did not, in fact, I don't even think Republicans that are like in the know, your smarter Republicans like Mitch McConnell, I don't think they would push that. In fact, I think they'd be pushing against that as hard as they could with any levers of power they can pull, because they would know that that would mean that the jig is up for them entirely. For Biden to get in trouble for apparently accidentally having classified documents and taking proactive action to return them, and Trump to be spared any sort of trouble at all simply because he'll complain and say yada yada bias, it'd be too much. I think our Justice Department is skilled enough at covering for the rich that they know how far they can go without full-on riots. So there is the update. Special counsel assigned to Biden. I expect this person to take a very long time to pretend to do a in-depth investigation, and then to announce, nope, we got nothing. There was honest intent to return these, yada yada yada. Speaking of, and perhaps this is worthy of its own video, but Special Counsel Smith does appear to be ramping up his investigation. Probably helps that he's out of the hospital now. But yes, that investigation is picking up steam. So, why are we in this mess? This whole situation that America in 2023 finds itself in, where there seems to be two different Americas. There's the one that's listening to facts and trying to deal with reality. And then there's the other, which is existing in a bizarre, gun nuts, dark fantasy, and trying to make real world laws based off that fantasy. We're going to do a whole segment in a minute about a law that was just made based upon that bizarre fantasy. But the issue is this: it's misinformation. And I'm sure you've heard that word before. But there are different kinds. In fact, there's misinformation, there is malinformation, and there is disinformation. You got to be able to talk to your family members, or the people in your community who are getting affected by this. Let's look at how you can do that. So first of all, this is from the government's website about digital media literacy. Basically, the government recognized that your crazy Trump-loving uncle is getting sucked down online rabbit holes and put out a guide to understanding it.
Earlier today,
not my intention.
I signed an order appointing.
Oh, one day we're going to get this right. There we go. Okay. Digital media literacy addresses 3 types of online content. So what is misinformation? It is false, but it's not created or shared with the intention of causing harm. This is usually a committed online person who has fallen for one of the other 2 things on this list and is making their own content. I'm telling you how to recognize this stuff and what this stuff is so that you can understand how the people in your life that are getting poisoned by this, how they are getting poisoned. So misinformation is the most common. Somebody thinks a thing is real, doesn't do their fact checking, makes their own content about it, spreads it out there. A big part of the reason I include all the links to my sources, aside from the fact that sometimes those sources are other channels that I think are worthy of promotion, is so that you can check my work and you can see what it is I was watching and doing and yada, yada, yada. I often include redundant links, links to PDFs that I was reading. That is why. We're going to get into identifying misinformation in a moment, but number one thing, look for an absence of that, not citing where it came from. Malinformation. That is based on fact, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. This is usually what you hear Republican politicians doing. They're smart enough to know, and your standard YouTuber, right-wing YouTuber, your Steven Crowders, your Ben Shapiros, they use malinformation. They will take a fact and then intentionally use it out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. So, for example, you could say that there was a study done in the early 2000s that showed a correlation between living under power lines and rates of developing cancer of all kinds. And that would be true. But if your goal was to, let's say, bring down the value of houses built under power lines for some reason, you would leave out the fact that study was later clarified to say that, no, it turns out this is correlation. As in, they were only calling houses at random that lived under power lines and comparing that data to the standard cancer rates that had already been recorded through other means, meaning they were checking only one place. It's a very easy way to get tricked online because you look up one thing and you see, oh, that's true. There is a study. It did exist. And nowhere on that study does it say, by the way, in the future, we're going to get corrected in a way that really changes this. That's malinformation. It is more difficult to combat. It requires more work. But fortunately, the people that do malinformation as a living, for example, Tucker Carlson, you only need to disprove them a handful of times before the person who's hooked on them gets a whole lot less hooked. Once you establish, basically every time they talk, they're lying. So once you establish that this person is a liar, it becomes much easier to break that hold. Then, oh boy, I'll get my dome off the screen for this one. Then you have disinformation. That is deliberately created to mislead, harm, or manipulate a person, social group, organization, or country. Do bear in mind that last important word, or country. Disinformation, that's the kind of thing that the Ruskies usually send our way. When something is straight up not true, that is commonly part of a disinformation campaign that is successful. Like when you come across something that is just straight up not true, it's usually part of a larger disinformation campaign. That's also what a lot of anti-abortion groups do. They'll say things like abortion is linked to autism. Or, hey, vaccine anti-vaxxers do this a lot, saying vaccines are linked to autism. It's straight up not true. These are what you have to be on the lookout for. Link in the description. Here is here's the checklist to go through. When you are, you've got a family member that says, I just learned X wild thing that means I'm going to vote bright red. Say, all right, show me where you saw that. Let me have a look right now. Let's see where you saw that. Then you walk through this with them, this checklist. Is this a well-known or trusted news outlet, and are they reputable for the subject at hand? So, for example, if they're, well, you can start with the easy ones. If it's from freedomeagle.net, you can just point out that website. Be like, does this to you look like a legit? Do you think this person that runs this website has a team of scientists working on this? No? Okay. Where did they get their information? Do they say where they got their information? Just keep following that trail, and you will get to a point where it is either a crazy person somewhere, just blogging, no qualifications whatsoever, or they simply don't say where they got it. In which case, you turn to your family member and you're saying, okay, you're believing this thing based on the word of freedomeagle.net and no one else. I would hesitate to believe that thing that you believe. You can also have a situation where, a popular hunting magazine shares an insane political theory. A conspiracy theory about what Democrats do behind closed doors. You ask the person in your community who's falling for it, what qualifications does this hunting magazine have in dealing with politics, which is a complicated damned thing. You can imagine how it goes. Triple check the source. As explained, just look for that source. Check the name, logo, and about section to verify. All fantastic ideas. Identify the author. Misleading and false articles often do not include authors. If authors are listed, do a quick search to see if they are trusted sources. You will be surprised how often you will see the same author writing what appears to be the same article on dozens and dozens of different sites. That is a disinformation campaign most often, especially when it is word for word the same article. Often, that author does not exist. It's just a name associated with the article, and that's that. You want to have a lot of fun with it. Sometimes you'll see the same article with different authors across different sites. Google is a powerful tool. If you don't know this, you can put quotes around your search, and then Google will search for the exact string of words. So if you copy, the first sentence of an article, put it in quotes, have a look for where else it appears online. With disinformation, often it will appear on multiple sites. That is a great way to spot it, and you can point out to your family member, hey, this is shady. You're reading shady stuff. Examine spelling and punctuation. That one's obvious. Poor spelling generally means no editor. Generally means not a professional publication. Let me get my dome off the screen for a second. Seek alternative viewpoints. Search for other articles and sources on the same topic. If there are limited or no results, or you find contradicting information, you may want to do further research and fact-checking. So, again, what we're doing here is doing this in front of your family member that says they believe some crazy thing. The idea being, A, to not let them go on believing that individual crazy thing, but B, you're also teaching them digital media literacy. You're teaching them critical thinking. This is healthy for them. And even if you don't convince them in that moment, they're going to see how it is you check the reliability of a source. This is very good for them in the long term, and the only way they're going to stop believing this nonsense. Think before you share. Damaging disinformation spreads quickly via shared posts. Emotional and sensitive topics are often used to manipulate readers into sharing without thinking. Review the above steps and be wary of content that seeks to sow discord and provoke audiences. So just mention that to them. That's all you got to do. Just mention to them that these articles are designed to do exactly what was happening. And we talk often about how it can be uncomfortable. So nobody wants to go to their dad and be like, look, Dad, you got duped. It's awful. But what is worse is allowing them to live in the dark delusion that is the necessary one for the GOP to exist. Necessary one to exist for the GOP to exist. Unfortunately, if we are not willing to have these conversations with people that are sucked in to this madness, you get people that want to do something about non-existent problems. And that creates very real problems. So when you're confronted with that, your uncle's saying, these GD libs are killing America, and here's why. And then they share something about Biden getting ready to kick down your door and steal your gas stove, instead of the reality, which is the government now offering you $800 towards a healthier option, should you choose that. You got to address it. Let's have a look at, where is it? What happens when you have a political party that only believes in fantasy, can only exist in a fantasy realm? Well, you get legislation to prevent non-existent things from happening. Here is that very thing.
Anti-abortion measures are so unpopular, Republicans in the House actually invented something popular sounding that they could vote on. They created a bill to outlaw something totally made up. It is called the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. It makes it a crime for doctors to murder babies that are born alive during an abortion, which,
again, does not happen.
If it were something that happened, would be very much already covered under existing laws against, murder. But it's a moot point, because only in the dark imaginations of Republicans is this something that abortion providers would ever actually do. Do not take it from me. Take it from a doctor, Alice Mann, a Democratic state senator in Minnesota, where state Republicans are pushing born alive legislation.
This is a perfect example of why politicians should not be making medical decisions, is because we are literally making stuff up and writing laws about it at this exact moment. A child does not come out partway alive and then doctors kill it. That's not a thing. That's not a thing today. It's not a thing tomorrow. It's not a thing 10 years ago. It's not a thing. So for us to legislate things that don't exist in real life, again, perfect example of why politicians should not practice health care.
Of course, this is just the latest in Republicans' decades-long war on what are generally called late abortions, but which Republicans like to call partial birth abortions, another completely made-up thing.
So let's use a little of what we've learned. That is misinformation as well as disinformation. They take a real thing, abortions, and use numbers associated with it out of context in order to, that's disinformation and malinformation, in order to achieve their own political ends, which end up hurting Americans. It's also disinformation. This is Republicans using straight up fantasy, a made up thing. Right there in the quote, not a thing. Let's let Alex Wagner finish. By the way, rising star in my estimate.
Abortions that take place after 20 weeks of gestation make up just 1% of abortions performed in the United States of America. And they are generally performed because of severe fetal abnormalities, or in some cases because a woman has been unable to obtain an abortion because of the very restrictions Republicans have put in place.
Just to clarify, that's like when a doctor tells you, listen, this baby, if you carry this baby all the way to birth and you have it, it's going to live for about 30 seconds outside of the womb, and that will be 30 seconds of pure agony. Hurts to hear. Like, we don't like talking about this stuff. I wish we didn't have to. I wish that sadness could be contained to only the moment that it was absolutely necessary. And even then, I wish we had an educated populace working hard to make sure those kinds of birth defects that shatter families didn't happen. But Republicans, monsters that they are, use that to play political games, to rile up their base with disinformation and malinformation. And they cause more heartache for the families going through something like that. It's insane.
In state after state. Late abortions are difficult and they are costly, and they are definitely not chosen on a whim.
Yeah.
The other measure Republicans in the House approved today condemns violence over the issue of abortion, but not violence against abortion providers, which has spiked in recent years.
Oh, God.
No, this condemns attacks on anti-abortion facilities, including crisis pregnancy centers. Republicans love to promote crisis pregnancy centers as places that take care of pregnant women. But in fact, crisis pregnancy centers are infamous for falsely advertising themselves as abortion providers and then feeding false anti-abortion information to the pregnant women who come to them in order to stop them from having the abortions they may be seeking.
So let's use what we've learned. Is that misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation? That is a whole lot, actually. They use disinformation, certainly. They will take real statistics and put them out of context to mislead people that come there. But when people in some of the saddest moments of their lives, and some of their most vulnerable moments. Go to one of these places which are designed to look like abortion clinics. They have wording designed to draw women in. Draw people who can get pregnant in. They intentionally mislead people into going there, and then they spread malinformation. Then they lie to them. They tell them things that are not true. This is what Republicans want to spend their time defending. This nonsense.
Last year, when NBC News producers visited 2 crisis pregnancy centers in Texas to ask for counseling, they were told that abortions cause mental illness, cancer, and infertility.
Malinformation.
Instead of medical advice, a counselor sent one of the producers away with a pair of knit baby booties, telling her she would pray for her. That's a crisis pregnancy center. This is week 1 of your new House of Representatives. No to scary-sounding abortion procedures that don't actually exist. Yes, for crisis pregnancy centers that lie to women. They have really got their finger on the pulse of the American voter.
Yeah. Despicable. Just utterly despicable. So, what we can do about this was covered in the first segment. Let's go over it again. Your GOP voting members of your community, when they bring these topics up, be prepared to explain to them what a misinformation campaign is. Be prepared to explain to them why they're being lied to. It's unfair. It's unfair that decent people have to do more work to educate people who fall for Republican nonsense. But it doesn't change the fact that work needs to get done. You can arm yourself rather than with memorizing every single insane Republican talking point. Simply memorize how to spot a lie. If it sounds insane, it usually is. And all you have to do is follow the trail until it goes cold. And if it's a lie, it's going to go cold pretty darn quickly. Get used to doing that, and it will be easier for you to convert the people in your community who are caught up in this nonsense. People, and it just relies on human nature. People don't like being embarrassed. And if every time your Republican colleague or whatever tells you, well, I'm all for crisis pregnancy centers. I want to get rid of all the abortion clinics. Just follow the trail. What's good about them? Where did you hear that? Let's look at this pregnancy crisis center. Who runs it? Who pays for it? If they get a Facebook post telling them some insane thing, and then they try to share that with you, just do the extra work of looking into it. You will find where it is awry, where it has gone off. And you will be able to report back to that person. It might not yank them out all at once, but it will be difficult, extremely difficult, for them to keep bringing back insane theories, or to get caught up in these insane theories, because they will feel the embarrassment of the last time they tried one of these things. They tried to talk about one of these things and were immediately shot down by their relative or colleague or whatever that knew better than to fall for it. Our lack of jumping on people with wrong opinions has resulted in growing hate groups around the country. Matter of fact, we're surrounded. The Southern Poverty Law Center tracks hate groups. Here they are in America. Ashamed to say, my own state, Michigan, is a cluster. Even in Ann Arbor, a town that is around here known to be very liberal, there's the Thomas More Law Center. Sounds very official. It's just a hate group. It's a, to my understanding, a Christian nationalist group doing its best to get rid of everybody else. There are Nazi groups. There are what are known as militias around here that incidentally don't care for people who aren't white. Links in the description. You can look at this map as well. Look for your state. If I'm not mistaken, every state, even Hawaii, has one. The only one doesn't is Alaska. God bless them. But yes, we have a serious problem with hate groups in this country. As a matter of fact, the FBI agrees. This is a report from the annual report from the FBI and Department of Homeland Security. This was done in 2021, and it usually deals with the year before. And when we have it available, it's the next year. So the end of 2022, this became available to us all. But they say, in 2020, some domestic violent extremists exploited lawful gatherings after law enforcement involved deaths of unarmed African Americans. That means police shot unarmed black men. That's the washed way they have of saying that, but okay. They used lawful gatherings, so peaceful protests. After blah, 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 police shot a black guy who wasn't armed to engage in violence against ideological opponents and other targets. In other words, in 2020, domestic violent extremists, aka domestic terrorists, attacked people on the left, or at least people supporting left-wing ideas like black people should be able to be just as safe walking down the street as anybody else. That is what they do. That is what domestic terrorism frequently looks like in the U.S. It also looks like power stations being vandalized and shot up. Another brand of right-wing extremism is this. Attacking power stations, and in fact, let's look at their predictions because they were quite correct. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security report says, we assess that anti-government violent extremists will continue to plot and potentially conduct sporadic attacks on critical infrastructure in federal, state, and local facilities. Get ready for the thing we are all expecting, as well as violent physical assaults against their perceived ideological opponents. These are the people we have been trying so hard to get law enforcement to take seriously. They keep writing reports like this and then treating right-wing extremists with kid gloves. The way they try to arrest a right-winger versus some black guy in his car minding his business is insane. In fact, we did. That was quite correct. We did have a rise in attacks on critical infrastructure. In fact, it rose by, I believe, 70% in 2022. This is the path we will continue to go down until the Justice Department treats right-wingers seriously. Until being a right-winger stops being a free pass on getting away with crime. Best way we can do that is make sure there's less right-wingers. Remember these definitions. I've shared the link in the description. Misinformation is false, but not created or shared with the intention of causing harm. That's usually content creators who have fallen for something, not people who are paid to create content generally, but just fans of the content who haven't looked closely enough. Malinformation based on fact, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. Those are YouTubers with a big following that are intentionally twisting things. It's also your common run-of-the-mill politicians. And then there is disinformation, deliberately created to mislead, harm, or manipulate a person, social group, or organization, or a country. More and more, we're coming across that as the other side gets bolder and bolder. I don't think that it's too terribly hard to identify, or at least to know when you're hearing misinformation. If it's something that seems like a Republican's wet dream, it's probably not real. Not to say that it never is ever. For example, Biden's team really did find classified documents in one of his offices. Sure. But get ready for hearing the disinformation on that. And the misinformation, and maybe, what the heck, even the malinformation. It's a long, annoying journey ahead of us to pull these people out of the cult, but we have to. Otherwise, that map is just going to keep filling up, and we will live in a worse and worse country. Let's have a bit of good news here. So if you're not familiar, Katie Porter is a real progressive. Adam Schiff is a very much a moderate Democrat who has accomplished next to nothing aside from his participation in the J6 committee. Here he is being annoyed that Katie Porter, it's a little more background. Dianne Feinstein is 89. She seems to have Alzheimer's. By all measures, she is going to retire at the end of her term. Katie Porter, not playing the normal political games, announced before Feinstein announced that she will not be running again, but it's sort of obvious. Katie Porter announced that she's running for that Senate seat. Here's Adam Schiff being, as they say, butthurt about it.
Well, folks, yesterday, a major announcement. Representative Katie...
Oh my gosh, how could I forget? Brought to you by Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire is doing a fantastic job. They nailed this as well, so I'm highlighting them as a attaboy.
Porter from the state of California announced that she will be running for the Senate seat that hopefully will be vacated by Dianne Feinstein in 2024. This is phenomenal news. This is a massive leap forward for progressive Katie Porter. And in my opinion, I view this as one step closer to the White House. It's a hell of a lot easier to get voted into the White House from the Senate than it is from the House of Representatives. So I love this trajectory that Katie Porter is on. Regular viewers of Ring of Fire, listeners to the Ring of Fire podcast, if you've seen me on any other show doing interviews, you have heard me say that who do I want to be the president? Katie Porter. She is my pick, so I am thrilled beyond belief that she is running for Senate. Other Democrats, not so much. They are pissed off because they wanted to run for that Senate seat, and now Katie Porter got the jump on him. Most of the anger, of course, came from Adam Schiff's office, with one person, and here is a language warning, I just got to tell you, but I'm going to read this quote. This is from a person close to Representative Adam Schiff.
When I saw this, I had thought it was Adam Schiff himself that said it. This makes a lot more sense.
According to the Daily Beast, they had this to say about Katie Porter's announcement yesterday. It's fucking crazy that she would announce in the middle of a natural disaster.
Oh, man.
It's crazy. So you're taking this progressive woman and you're slapping the label of crazy on her, right?
Yeah, well, all right. I don't know. It seems a little unfair to me. But still, also, in the middle of a natural disaster, when will there not be? We got fire season coming up now in California. That's a thing. Thank you, global warming. When will there not be a natural disaster? That seems dishonest.
That's what you're doing, Adam Schiff's office. That may not have come from Adam Schiff himself, but it came from his office. So we're going to credit you with that, Adam Schiff. That's how that seems to work. Also, Adam Schiff, I know you want to run for that seat from Dianne Feinstein, which, by the way, Feinstein hasn't even announced that she's retired. She's 89 years old. There's been story after story about how she's no longer mentally there. Some stories have even told the fact that she will be talking to a person and halfway through the conversation, she'll stop and introduce herself to that person, even if she's known them for decades. Like, I'm sorry, my grandmother, by the way, going through the same kind of dementia. It is very sad to watch. It's horrible for these people that go through this. But she damn sure doesn't need to be in the Senate anymore. Sorry.
It's true.
But anyway, Adam Schiff has, of course, expressed a lot of interest in running for that seat, and why not, right? And now, of course, he's pissed that Katie Porter's done it because Adam Schiff, who has been in Congress since 2001, thinks that he deserves that spot. I mean, after all, he's now been in Congress for 22 years, and I'm sure he's got a list of accomplishments somewhere, right, Adam? Huh? You've been there for 2 decades. What have you done? Oh, you made a name for yourself going after Trump for a couple years. Wonderful for you. None of it worked. Literally none of it worked. So you didn't even get rid of Donald Trump for us. You just became a punching bag for those on the right.
Yeah. So Adam Schiff, I have the same complaint of him that I do of, say, Nancy Pelosi or even Joe Biden. He is a corporate Democrat. He's a centrist. He's an ineffective leader. It's real easy for Republican politicians who are not slaves to the truth, let's say, to take a corporate Dem and poke a bunch of holes in anything they have to say, whether they're right or wrong, because they just point to the hypocrisy that comes from corruption. They have to, because they take big corporate money to get elected for their campaigns. They have to play nice with corporations, and that results in them legislating in a way that is favorable to corporations, which ends up being darn near identical to how Republicans legislate a lot of the time. That's how you have Joe Manchin being a Democrat, despite the fact that he owns coal mines. This is supposed to be the party that's pushing for green energy, and yet we have Joe Manchin. Adam Schiff is not somebody I want to see replacing Dianne Feinstein. Adam Schiff is a relatively young guy. He could hold on to that Senate seat for a long time in California. I would love Katie Porter to get that seat. And yeah, as Ring of Fire put it there, Fair and Cousins, sure, it would be a great springboard for the presidency. I think it's awful ambitious, but just winning the Senate seat would be a huge W. Generally speaking, in safe blue areas, that is where we should be pushing for progressives the hardest. In purple areas, there's a case to be made for a centrist. I personally am of the belief that we are in an era of politics where you are elected or not based on the motivation of the base. But there's an argument to be made, certainly, in purple areas. In blue areas, though, absolutely not. We need progressives, if only to set the tone for the rest of the country. Because going purple every chance we get has been pushing that Overton window closed on progressive ideas. We should have Medicare for all by now, not just be talking about it. So, yeah, couldn't be happier that Adam Schiff is mad, and certainly couldn't be happier that Katie Porter announced she is running. It's fantastic news all around. So Trae Crowder, a.k.a., I believe it's liberal redneck, progressive redneck. Oh, shoot, now I'm shaming myself by not knowing his channel moniker. But nonetheless, I heard him as a caller on a show that I enjoyed, and he spun that off into a career as somebody who just talks about politics for a living. He does the thing I despise most on earth, which is streaming out of his car seat. But hey, it works for him. And he talks about Republican projection, which I'm going to start calling projection politics because I think it describes it perfectly. Here he is giving a breakdown that I think is pretty darn enlightening.
Well, flights were grounded this morning after an FAA system crash for 4 hours, and Republicans wasted no time in blaming Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg for it.
Oof.
They said he was incompetent and unqualified. Lauren Boebert did so in middle school bully fashion, saying the only thing Pete was qualified for is sucking. You know, because he's a gay man and they are grotesquely infantile. But they were all doing it. They said Pete and every member of the Biden administration was hired to check a box and not because of their actual qualifications. Y'all, it continues to astound me just how adept these people are at the art of projection. They are the...
True. Very true. Case in point, Ben Carson. They could have put him anywhere in the government. This guy was a brain surgeon. A fucking brain surgeon. What did they put Ben Carson in charge of? HUD. Urban Housing and Development. Because all they see him is as a black man. All they see is the color of his skin. Maddening. Absolutely maddening. And they have the balls to say that Buttigieg was hired to check a box. Okay. All right. Ridiculous.
Pot calling the kettle black champions of the world, except in this case, the kettle's rainbow colored and the pot's a racist dumbass. But you know what I mean. They do it all the time. They're like, Democrats just have to politicize everything. And their hateful, divisive policies are threatening our democracy. I hear that and I'm like, dude, that would be like my cat accusing me of tearing the curtains up and shoving my butthole in everybody's face. Like the audacity. And they're doing it now. Really? Republicans talking about qualifications? The same people who elected a reality TV business cartoon as president and people like Boebert, who is objectively unqualified to run a dishwasher, to the halls of Congress are talking about qualifications. Do they remember the Trump administration? They didn't care about Here's a list of qualifications that were...
I realize he's joking, but I have to bring up that Boebert thing. She's literally unqualified to run a dishwasher. She had a restaurant, and she got a whole bunch of rodeo attendees dangerously sick with food poisoning at that restaurant. She is literally unqualified to run a dishwasher. He's not wrong.
Considered under the Trump administration, okay? Writing Trump a check. filleting Trump on the internet, complimenting Trump's backswing, being rich enough, being white enough, inventing new and exciting types of bigotry, marrying the right person, having the right papaw, marrying a person who has the right papaw, and so on. It wasn't about qualification. Some of Trump's appointees were so laughably unqualified, it sounds like you're making them up. He replaced an MIT physicist as Secretary of Energy with a sentient cowboy hat who forgot the name of the agency and then admitted he didn't know nukes were a thing there.
True. And a big oil guy. That was his qualification in Trump's eyes. He was in with oil companies. As for leading the IRS, he put in, admittedly, a tax lawyer. Hey, that sounds like it's off to a good start. Because the guy wrote an article saying Trump shouldn't have to release his tax returns. That's who these people are putting into office. George Santos. They just got elected. They don't give a GD about qualifications.
Trump's education secretary was a pyramid scheme queen who said that guns were needed in schools because of bears.
So, that lady, Betsy DeVos, is from Michigan. I would like to apologize on behalf of the entire state of Michigan for Betsy DeVos and for her scumbag brother, who owns, I kid you not, a private military company called Blackwater, which is responsible for atrocities in the Middle East. These people are monsters, and they belong in the deepest, darkest prison cells that we have. If we could, build an actual oubliette, like from that King Arthur movie, just a deep, dark pit in the ground where we could hold them. That's where they belong.
All right, and the list didn't stop with them. Under Trump, it went on and on. Miller, Gorka, Kushner, his purse dog of a daughter, nary a qualification betwixt them. But they were hired because they checked the right boxes. But see, when they talk about Biden, they're talking about different boxes being checked. Because even though Mayor Pete was a Harvard...
Kushner, who doesn't really have any sort of background, to my knowledge, in politics, Kushner was given the job of securing peace in the Middle East because he's Jewish. Ridiculous.
Rhodes Scholar, they say that he and every Biden appointee were hired for diversity reasons. Because, see, it doesn't compute to these people that a person can be both a minority and eminently qualified. They find it antithetical. These people see a picture of the Trump cabinet and it looks like a bunch of NPCs from a Ronald Reagan video game, and they go, now those are clearly some highly qualified professionals there. Then they see a picture of the Biden cabinet and it represents all orientations and ethnicities, and they go, well, this is clearly just some virtue signaling affirmative action stuff. These people don't know what they're doing, because that's just how their brains work, which I think sort of tells you all you need to know. Love y'all.
I don't know. You guys think I should do a Pixel Progressives on that? I think he's genuinely funny enough that that might be worth doing an animated short. So yeah, I don't know that I have any notes on that. Just so true. That's a perfect breakdown of the hypocrisy of the right. The projection politics that they seem to just have gotten comfortable with as their whole platform. Just look at what is shameful about themselves and accuse the other side of it. That's what we're dealing with. So recapping, what did we learn today? The spread of hate groups in America. Let's do it in close to chronological order. Joe Biden has a special counsel assigned to him now. Okay. It's not to worry about, though, because he seems to have acted lawfully, from what we can tell. And also, if he gets in any trouble at all, you better be sure Trump will be first and worse, because he did way worse very publicly. Then hate groups in America. They are all the F over the place, but don't worry. We have Talking to the Disinformed. Of course, all of these segments will be uploaded separately after this, but you have a way you can begin to pull people out of this nightmare echo chamber that is GOP online. The GOP is outlawing fantasy behavior that does not exist, because they keep telling you about things that aren't real. Of course, when they get into power in the House, they're going to have to try to legislate against them. It's like Don Quixote being put in charge of the military and taking out all the windmills. Adam Schiff angry about Katie Porter. Good. I don't like him. I do like Katie. And Republican projection with Trae Crowder. Utterly a delightful guy. The link to his video is in the description. I recommend you check him out. He's got great takes. He's concise, unlike myself. And yeah, I've never seen a video of his that I didn't enjoy. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a Pixel Progressives on him, by the way. I don't know. I like doing that sometimes. It's fun. If you enjoyed today, do consider giving it a like. You know what? Definitely give it a like. Yeah. And do consider giving it a subscribe. I love making this content, trying to build it into a business, and that will require a lot of you guys getting on board. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, do you even love me anymore? Are you in or are you out? What are you here for? They ask me if I'm finished, but I'll tell you one more. Baby, this is all I got. Give me one encore. Yeah, there's certain things that I can't accept. I blame pride. No, this ain't the type of tape you eject. It's straight fire. No, this ain't to say I'm facing regret. At the same time, it's like think back to the day that we met. I mean, I hate to admit crime, hate to admit lie, hate to admit buying the fact that the flames die. Made up my damn mind to fix it, I've been trying. 1 minute we're all fine until we go offline. Yeah, fuck it up, baby, like it was the first time. Yeah, pucker up, girl, we made it through the worst times. Yeah, suck it up, girl, we made it through the hard days. Looking up, couple youngins trying to stargaze. Look at us. Look at what we've been through. Baby, you the only single thing I'm into. Baby girl, you know it's always been you. Yeah, it's only ever been you.